Chinese sci-fi novel Three-Body Problem featured on Netflix. The scenes of the Cultural Revolution are all too realistic. It's banned in mainland China. The Cultural Revolution has imprinted upon Xi Jinping a psychological trauma that Xi suffered as a teenager. Why has a victim become a dictator? Welcome to China Insights. Let's uncover the CCP's secret code revealed by Netflix new series, Three-Body Problem. The Chinese sci-fi novel Three-Body Problem was remade by Netflix and premiered on March 21, 2024. The release immediately sparked a flurry of public opinion in China and internationally. The difference is that while overseas mainstream media picked up the story, the Chinese Communist Party, or CCP, has banned it. A large number of little pinks accuse it of being a serious insult to China and have initiated a boycott of the series. Their reason is that the opening 5-minute Cultural Revolution scene of the 8-episode series apparently offended them. So what kind of show is Three-Body Problem? Why is it such a controversy? How has the 5-minute opening scene poked at the CCP's pain spots? And what does it reveal about the CCP's top brass? This is the opening scene of the Netflix series Three-Body Problem. In 1967, when the Cultural Revolution had just begun, the protagonist, Ye Wenjie, was attending Tsinghua University and witnessed her father being taken to the stage to be criticized by her mother and then beaten to death by Red Guards on the spot. Later, in order to avoid punishment, the protagonist joined a military program in Inner Mongolia on the condition that she could never leave the base. In the cold outpost under a giant dish, she lost all faith in mankind. She dedicated her life to research and scientific breakthroughs. High-powered radio signals were broadcast into outer space. It would have serious consequences for humanity, and it all started on that one disastrous day in Beijing. That's just an overview of the universe-spanning plot of the Three-Body Problem, a science fiction epic that also takes in secret science programs, an alien species in a solar system beyond the stars, and a strange video game depicting the rise and fall of great civilizations over thousands of years. Originally a novel by Liu Cixin, a sci-fi writer from mainland China, Three-Body Problem was once thought unadaptable for its brain-rattling time jumps, philosophical dilemmas, and dense explorations of scientific theory. But now it's hitting international screens via a Netflix series, a belated return for the creators of Game of Thrones, David Benioff and D.B. Weiss. Moreover, the original novel is an incredible success. In China, his books account for 2/3 of the science fiction market. After being translated into English, his books sold well in the United States too. Not only are his books well received by readers, but also by critics. In 2015, he won the Hugo Award, the highest prize in science fiction literature. He is also the first non-English author to win the Hugo Award. Today, Liu is lauded as the man who put Chinese science fiction on the map, an incredible feat considering China's historic censorship of the genre.
比我很多年前写《三体》的人。
Over 40 days in Beijing alone, more than 1,700 victims of struggle sessions were beaten to death. Many others picked an easier path to avoid the madness. This is the opening paragraph of the author's English translation of Three-Body Problem. A movie industry source revealed that the content that involves the Cultural Revolution has touched on the sensitive spot of Xi Jinping. According to Radio Free Asia, as early as March 17th, China's Central Propaganda Department and the Internet Information Office had ordered the blocking of the U.S. version of Three Body Problem, which was about to hit the shelves. It's rumored that the CCP officials had asked Netflix to remove the 5-minute Cultural Revolution scene, but Netflix refused. As a result, it could not enter the mainland China market. Are these 5 minutes of scenes really that important? From the plot point of view, yes, it is. Because this is the reason why one of the most important protagonists took the initiative to contact the aliens and secretly formed the Earth 3 body to destroy the Earth's civilization. If she hadn't witnessed the death of her father in such a savage murder, she wouldn't have had a series of psychological traumas and twists, and the logic of the entire work would have been impossible to rationalize. From a real historical point of view, the 5-minute scene can be said to have done a superb imitation of the atmosphere of the Cultural Revolution, which was characterized by brutal struggles and relentless attacks. But there is still a considerable gap between the trauma and the original reality, as the real Cultural Revolution was much more bloody and brutal than the scenes in the episode. The Cultural Revolution was a period from May 1966 to October 1976, the height of the series of political campaigns initiated by Mao Zedong after the CCP came into power. It was known as the 10 Years of Havoc. Qin Mu, a mainland writer, once commented on the Cultural Revolution. It was an unprecedented Holocaust, with millions of people uprooted and trapped, millions of people dying with bitterness, many families torn apart, many children and teenagers turned into hooligans and thugs, many books set on fire, many scenic spots and ancient monuments vandalized, the graves of the great sages dug up, and many sins and evils carried out under the guise of a revolution. How many people died in the Cultural Revolution? Various research and official figures of the CCP showed that at least millions of people were persecuted to death during the Cultural Revolution. Ye Jianying, a veteran and one of the founding 10 marshals of the CCP, once disclosed in an internal meeting that the Cultural Revolution targeted 100 million people and killed 20 million. Deng Xiaoping, the CCP's second-generation party leader, once admitted to a foreign reporter that the number of people who actually perished in the Cultural Revolution is an astronomical figure, one that is impossible to estimate forever. In his book, China's Bloody Century, Professor R.J. Rummel, an American authority on massacres around the world, puts the number of people who died in the Cultural Revolution at about 7.73 million. The novel Three Body Problem was written in 2008, and it has a much more detailed description of the Cultural Revolution than just this 5-minute scene. So, how come it didn't trigger the little pinks before, when it was popular in China? Why did Netflix showing of just one of these struggle sessions make the CCP so hostile? The reason is simple. These images have just shone a light on the reality of China's society today. People have observed that China is seeing the Cultural Revolution 2.0 launched by Xi Jinping, from the modern Red Guard's prosecution of the Chinese novelist Mo Yan to the cyberbully of Nangfu Spring, a private enterprise. It can be said that the atmosphere of the new Cultural Revolution is ripe for the picking, and all that is missing is a call from Xi Jinping. One of the most bizarre phenomena of the Cultural Revolution 2.0 is that the whole group of little pinks seem to enjoy the thrill of attacking others, which means that they support the Cultural Revolution in their hearts and feel that the Cultural Revolution is good. But when they are shown the images of the Cultural Revolution, they regard it as a shame, a smear, an insult to China, and an anti-Chinese act. Isn't this odd? Well, not really, because this seeming contradiction is the essence of the Cultural Revolution, chanting the most noble slogans and committing the most brutal acts, legitimizing violent crimes in the name of revolution or patriotism. The only difference is that in those old days, victims were beaten with brass buckle belts, but now it's done through cyber violence. Speaking of the Cultural Revolution 2.0, the veteran fans of the CCP have already wielded the scythes of the Cultural Revolution on the head of Apple CEO Tim Cook. On the evening of March 21, 2024, across from the Jing'an Temple in the Jing'an district of Shanghai, the largest Apple retail store in China and in Asia was having its grand opening. Even Apple CEO Tim Cook was present at the event, so huge lines formed at least 12 hours before the scheduled opening. But here, a middle-aged woman in a yellow jacket, a baseball cap, and a mask appeared, swearing at the fans lining up. "You're pandering to foreigners." Some Apple fans reasoned that if Apple wasn't popular in China, how could it open such a big store in Shanghai? This woman offered a foul-mouthed response. "It's because of scum like you who pay for it." When someone reported, "Do you know how many jobs Apple brings to China every year?" the woman blurted out, "No need. We have our own Huawei." Eventually, no one bothered with her, and she left, cursing scum repeatedly. Without a doubt, if time went back to 1966, she would be one of the Red Guards. At present, Xi Jinping is still in need of Western products and money. One can imagine when he reaches the stage of desperation, it's only a matter of time before American goods are boycotted and this luxurious retail store destroyed. As for why Xi Jinping wants to launch Cultural Revolution 2.0, it seems to be another oddity of the CCP system. Xi Jinping's father was politically purged in 1962 before the outbreak of the Cultural Revolution. He was paraded and persecuted during the Cultural Revolution and became deaf in one ear as a result. Xi himself was a direct victim of the Cultural Revolution. He was just 13 years old when the Cultural Revolution began, and his father was still undergoing re-education in a factory. When Xi Jinping was a middle school student, he was labeled a counter-revolutionary and imprisoned in the courtyard of the Central Party School because he made remarks against the Cultural Revolution. When a struggle session was held at the school and Xi was the last one on stage, his mother was sitting in the audience. When on stage they shouted, "Down with Xi Jinping," Xi's mother was forced to join and shout the same thing. When the rally was over, the mother and son couldn't see each other, even though they were close. One night, when it was raining heavily, Xi Jinping jumped out of the window and ran home when the guards weren't looking. His mother was shocked and asked him why he came back. Xi said, "Mom, I'm hungry." He never imagined that his mother had gone to report to the leaders in the pouring rain behind his back. At that time, the hungry Xi Jinping cried in despair and ran off into the rainy night again. In the end, he was captured, arrested, and sent to juvenile detention center for labor re-education. Decades later, Xi has taken power and become the CCP leader. But he has turned painstakingly to Mao's leftist line. There are many signs indicating that Xi is a deep-rooted Maoist. The red values of the Chinese Communist Party that he has accepted since elementary school haven't been removed because of the persecution he suffered. Nowadays, these red values have become the trademark of Xi Jinping and his close associates. The current top echelon of the CCP is basically a generation that grew up during the Cultural Revolution. Born in 1953, Xi discontinued his junior high school due to the onslaught of the Cultural Revolution. In 1969, he became a migrant worker in rural China. In 1975, he entered the Chemical Engineering Department of Tsinghua University as a student of the Workers', Peasants, and Soldiers Cadet Program. The Standing Committee of the Politburo, China's highest authority, as well as Xi's other close associates in the Politburo, all share similar experiences with him. They were the so-called young intellectuals who went to the rural areas for re-education and had similar academic qualifications as students of workers, peasants, and soldiers. Out of the desire for power, they have forgotten their painful past. Their love for the Cultural Revolution and admiration for Mao Zedong may be the shared traits of the current CCP top brass, as well as the code that connects them to one another. In recent years, the current CCP regime has been vigorously applying Mao's experience in ruling the country. It's a model of party ruling everything where local officials and thugs keep every Chinese under tight control. China's former premier, Wen Jiabao, said at his last premier's press conference,
没有政治体制改革的成功，经济体制改革不可能进行到底。已经取得的成果还有可能得而复失。社会上新产生的问题也不能从根本上得到解决。文化大革命这样历史的悲剧还有可能重新发生。
Looking back, the opening scenes of the Cultural Revolution as depicted in the new Netflix series are sensitive precisely because it has touched the code of the party's cultural thinking among the top leaders of the Chinese Communist Party, who are connected by their desire for power.